Okay, so I just want to show off the board in a bit more detail and the artwork, and I'll talk about the processes with it. So it is wood burnt in, hand wood burnt, and I should mention that if you've never done that before, I actually found it quite therapeutic. It obviously takes a long time, but the basic idea was I just had the map printed out on a big piece of paper down at the office works shop, and then basically just with a piece of carbon paper I would trace it onto the wood and then wood burn it on, and I'd do it section by section, so I'd probably only do an A4 piece at a time, and I just sticky taped the edge of the paper down here, and that way I could just lift the piece of paper up, put the carbon paper underneath, trace it, and then pull out the wood burning tool and burn those marks in. It actually is a lot easier than you think because it's just tracing. The problem is if you make a mistake, it's permanent. So it's kind of like tattooing in that sense, and it was I had a lot of fun doing it. I would do it again, no problems. In regards to if you've never used a wood burning tool before, I would suggest doing what I did here, which this is my practice piece of wood. This is where I was practicing, practicing shading here, which I did use another head attachment here. I was going to do it like this, but I didn't quite like that. I was practicing road markings here. I was going to colour the seas blue, and I was, some sand sort of colours, trying to figure out whether to maybe paint as well as wood burn. And so I would highly recommend just getting a piece of cheap wood to practice on, and then before you jump into it, and I think you could even see somewhere on there's still some carbon markings from the carbon paper. So I did run a test piece of wood before I put, I was going to say pen to paper, but actually it's a hot iron on wood. But so I should also mention, this is not my first attempt. My first attempt is on the other side. I actually wasn't happy with it. I was a bit ambitious, and what I tried to do was actually black out the sea area, and then soon realised that the iconography was very hard to read, and so I abandoned that, turned it over and started again. So I'll talk about a few of the iconography and changes that I made. There's nothing major. I just added a little bit of colour into the victory point locations here in yellow and changed them to Roman numerals. The Navisport locations are marked with the little blue triangles instead of the boat icon, and that was just because it's a lot easier to wood burn a little triangle and colour it in blue than doing a little boat, which wouldn't have stood out anyway. And then I just outlined the city locations in white. The straits have a little aqua sort of outline. The sea locations have those purple outlines there just to make it pop a little bit so that everything is pretty identifiable quickly. And the named locations are either victory point locations or levy locations. None of the other locations were named, just to sort of declutter it a little bit. The turn marker here, I moved that from the side on the original down to here so that Pompey can do all the admin. And then we've got the battle boards either side for both players. And this one here has an icon for Pompey to mark whether he is the attacker or defender. And then he can keep track of the rounds here. And I didn't put that over on Caesar's side because only one player needs to do that admin. And that's basically it. I did coat this with 3 coats of clear varnish. Those coats were done 16 hours apart. So, and man, was I flying high on the fumes of that or what? Was insane. This whole garage just totally stunk for like a week. The edging is, you can see that it's stained wood, but these are actually fence palings, so they were quite cheap and they were already coloured. And all I did is screw them into they're wood glued and screwed in. You can see they're not perfectly cut or edged here, that's fine. That's about 7 centimeters thick, so that's probably about 3 inches, and the lip sits up about an inch, which is great for keeping the dice on the table. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I designed it in such a way, because I do a fair bit of solo gaming, it was designed in such a way that when you've got your thin maps like this one here for Wilderness War, I've got a piece of Perspex cut to size, that's 3mm thick Perspex, and so it's actually cut full length of the board, and then we can put that down there, and we've got a perfect playing space for playing with those thin maps as well. So the table wasn't just designed to play one game. And I should also mention one of the things I like about this size table is I can, on this vacant space down the bottom here, is enough for 2 player's aids, so you can put them underneath there as well. I really do want to go a little bit overboard again and build a hutch that sort of comes up over here with an area to keep the rule books and components with a light underneath. And I will probably do that, but I want it to be easily removed so that I can play it 2-player without any interruption here. I'm still working on the design for that. Now this board was meant to be double-sided and was meant to be able to be able to be picked up on the legs and flipped over, and on the other side I was going to have a map for the shores of Tripoli. Same thing, wood burnt in, but that one I was going to colour with watercolour and then varnish it. Obviously that didn't come to fruition because I made a mistake on my first attempt for Julius Caesar. The one thing I don't like about the table was the legs that I bought. These are thin metal legs, they're very light, and it's very top heavy because the top weighs so much. So I did brace the legs with some fence paling, and look, it's sturdy, like I could stand on it, but see that wobble? I don't like that, so I'm going to rebuild some legs out of thick wood and do that myself and varnish them up and colour them and do whatever I need, because it bothers me. I'm a bit pedantic, and that wobble, whilst it's perfectly functional, it bothers me a little bit, so I'll probably redo that. Plus I wouldn't mind having another table done with, if I can do a double-sided one, that'd be really cool. But that's basically the design for the table. I'd highly recommend anyone giving it a go. If you're a fan of drawing or doing a bit of painting or tattooing even, I would highly recommend giving wood burning art a go. I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to take a break now. I'm going to have a cup of coffee and start learning Wilderness War. Thanks for watching. So I just realised I forgot to mention the costing, and I know some people will be interested in how much it costs. So, we've got the best production qualities here ever, so I've just made a few notes on a piece of cardboard. But the actual big board, the pine piece where the artwork is done, that was about $63. I remember that, which is pretty reasonable. The hardware for all the screws and the glue and stuff like that was somewhere in the vicinity of about $40. The varnish was $45, and there's actually enough left over. I could probably do another board, but and that was top quality stuff. This was sold to me by a paint shop that is opposite the workshop I work at, so I know the people there, and so I was able to really get exactly what I wanted and needed, and I'm pretty happy with the outcome of it. The edging, like the brown edging, the fence palings, they were about $40, and that includes the fence paling parts that I used on the bottom for the bracing. The legs were $80. This is all in Australian dollars, I should mention. The legs were $80, and that was one part that I really regret having purchased because I'm not happy with them, as I mentioned. The wood burning tool itself was $45. There are cheaper ones out there. The one I got was the Trade Flame one, which works really well. I did try cheaper ones, but they broke quite soon into it. And then the Perspex was about $80 for the cut. That includes like them custom cutting it to size. So total $393 Australian dollars, which equates to about 266 US dollars. I'm pretty happy with that. I know it seems kind of expensive, but it was built, like custom built. Obviously, it's a very unique piece. It's I consider the board a piece of art, so I enjoy that. But more than anything, it took an absolute shit ton of time to put together, and I feel it was worthwhile. And I'm overall just, I was happy with the project and how it came together. I learned a lot. My next one will be bigger and better. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with it.